Pay for paying my sister's medical school tuition only for her to sue me over an inheritance? My name is Danielle C. I am 33 years old. I am the oldest and the fixer of problems nobody wants to admit exist. I work as a private investigator, tracking missing persons, running background checks, investigating insurance fraud, and occasionally, dealing with a spouse who is not actually working late. I notice small details. I hear the pauses people expect you to miss. In my family, that made me the designated problem solver. If something broke, I fixed it. If someone needed help, I paid for it. 7 years of this. 7 years of paying for my sister's tuition, rent, exam fees, medical scrubs, and textbooks with the price stickers still on the plastic wrap. 7 years of telling myself that when Elise became a doctor, it would all be worth it. I learned to live on a shoestring budget. Ramen noodles, cheap work boots, a used sedan that sounded like a drum kit falling down a flight of stairs. I took on extra cases to make ends meet. My mother called me resourceful when she needed something, and obsessive when I needed a boundary. My dad called it being strong, which in our house always meant being a wallet. The night everything changed started in my mother's kitchen. It had faux marble countertops and a refrigerator that hummed like a nervous throat. I had stopped by with a bag of groceries because she had texted that they needed help with dinner. I was chopping an onion when my sister arrived. She carried a clean white coat folded over her arm like it was a sacred artifact. "You're free tomorrow," Mom said without looking at me. "Elise needs a ride downtown for her white coat ceremony." "I already planned to go," I said. I cleared my afternoon. Elise sorted through the mail on the counter as if she owned the place. "You'll be on time, right? Don't go all private eye and flake out on us. I've never missed a thing for you." She did not look up. "You miss a lot, Danielle. You just hide it by paying for things." Stung, but I kept chopping. The fumes from the onion are useful for hiding real tears. Then my mother added, almost gently, like sliding a knife under a stubborn knot, "Your only job is to sacrifice. That's your place in this family." I put down the knife. "My job? You know what I mean," she said. Her eyes were soft, but her voice was firm. "You're good at being supportive, not at being the center of attention. Let Elise have her moment to shine." Elise finally looked at me with a small clinical smile. "It's not that complicated. You were built for the background." Something inside me felt unsteady. My hands were steady, but the floor felt a little strange, like a picture hanging crookedly on a wall. I wanted to say 1,000 things. I said nothing. I cleared the cutting board, put the onion halves in a zip-top bag, and told myself, just smile tomorrow. Clap and swallow it. She earned this. Later that week, Grandpa Harold passed away, and the family group chat lit up like a notification you can't ignore. "Elise, I'll attend the inheritance hearing after my residency selection. Timing is critical." "Mom, Danielle can file the paperwork with the probate court." "Me, okay." That was the first mistake, saying yes. The second was believing I still understood the rules of our family. Grandpa Harold was not a wealthy man. He had a paid-off house in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a small cabin on a lake for the summers, a modest investment account, and a 1958 Omega watch that he would wind every time he told a long story. He also had a soft spot for me and a strong dislike for dishonesty. He once told me that no one can fake a sincere no. I did not understand it then. I do now. When I turned 26, I started paying for Elise's medical school tuition because our parents said they couldn't afford it at the time. Dad's back was hurting, but his golf swing was not. Mom had stretched their savings thin, though the living room had a new set of couches and a chandelier that made the dining table look small. Elise got into a good medical school. Everyone cried. I looked at the tuition statements. It started with 1 semester, then a year, then 7. "The student loans are in your name for now because you get better interest rates," Mom said. "We'll refinance them into Elise's name when she's licensed." I paid for whatever financial aid didn't cover. I dealt with overdraft fees, late notices on my cell phone bill, and an apartment security deposit that bounced because the landlord was suspicious of my income. I told myself I was investing in a person, not a stock. The family group chat felt like a corporate memo written by people who never admit their mistakes. "Mom, Elise is our priority." "Dad, we're all making sacrifices." "Me, Got everything covered this semester, Elise. You are welcome. Sometimes the thank you came with a heart emoji. Sometimes it came with a list, books, lab fees, a test prep course. The good course, she would add. The payment is due Tuesday. I scaled up my work. I took surveillance jobs that left my fingers numb from the cold. I spent 8-hour stakeouts fueled by stale gas station coffee. I learned which pawn shops would give me a fair price when a client paid late. A corrupt landlord tried to pay me with a free month's rent to intimidate a former tenant. I turned him down. My rent was cheap enough and my integrity was not for sale. At family dinners, I ate quietly and listened to plans that did not include me. Mom talked about Elise's future practice, and Dad joked about me catching unfaithful spouses. Elise would scroll through her phone and say things like, "I do not have time to sleep, let alone manage a budget." I would nod, then slide my debit card across the table when the check came. Then came residency match day. There were balloons, confetti, and photos with captions like, "So proud of our future doctor." I was behind the camera. In the middle of the celebration, Mom took my elbow and whispered, "By the way, about Grandpa's will, just be reasonable." Reasonable how? "You know, Elise made real sacrifices," she said. "She deserves the house. She'll need the equity to start her life. The will hasn't been finalized by the court yet. Please don't be difficult." The will was presented to us on a rainy Tuesday in a law firm conference room that smelled faintly of toner. Grandpa Harold left the cabin on the lake to Elise and me jointly, so we would have a place for peace. He left me the house and the watch. The investments were split 60-40 in my favor, in recognition of services rendered. There was a sealed letter with my name on it, and one line that burned in my throat. The one who paid the bills was owed nothing. Mom's smile was fixed, but her eyes shifted around the room. Dad asked the lawyer how flexible the language in the will was. Elise joked about buying a nice coffee maker for the cabin, then looked at the numbers and went quiet. The next day, a new group chat was formed without me. I saw the screenshots later. Mom. Danielle will give up the house. Elise has her wrapped around her finger. She'll do anything for the sake of keeping the peace. Dad. We'll handle it. Our girl is sentimental. What I received was a phone call. "Hey," Elise said. "You should just sign a quitclaim deed for the house. It's cleaner that way. I'll pay you back once I'm settled." "How much?" "We'll figure it out. Just do the right thing. You don't even want a house." "I do," I said. "I want the house." Her voice went flat. "Don't be selfish. Grandpa wanted what was best for me. He wrote it down," I told her. There was a long silence. "You're obsessed with rules because you don't understand love," she said. That one hurt me, but I still did not say no. I said, "We'll talk after your graduation." 2 weeks later, I was served papers. Elise had filed a petition to contest the will and a separate claim for restitution of family support funds, allegedly owed because I had unduly influenced my grandfather during a period of cognitive decline. The language sounded like something from a TV drama. The attached evidence was familiar. Photos of me leaving my grandfather's house with a folder, screenshots of me texting him, "Can I stop by later with the forms?" and copies of the checks I wrote with tuition in the memo line, reframed as evidence that I was controlling his finances. I called Elise. She answered on the second ring. "Keep it short," she said. "I got the papers," I said. She sighed. "Don't be dramatic. This is the cleanest way. The judge will understand. You can afford a lawyer. This isn't personal. This is entirely personal." She raised her voice for the first time. "You can't make this complicated. Your only job is to sacrifice. That is your place in this family." Click. I stared at my phone, then at the manila envelope on my desk, the one containing 7 years of receipts, bank transfer confirmations, statements, and something she never thought I would keep. I put the envelope in my safe. I sat down, and for the first time in a long while, I let the anger rise without pushing it down. The hearing was set for a Thursday morning in probate court. I wore the only suit I own, the one I reserve for funerals and the rare client who pays in person. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Mom smoothed Elise's hair as if she were still 8 years old. Dad told me, "We can solve this like adults." Elise stared at her phone, then looked up and said, "Try not to be theatrical." I'll do my best, I said. Inside, there were wooden benches, a silent clock on the wall, and a judge with half-moon glasses and the bearing of someone who has seen every kind of family fall apart over a house with peeling paint. Elise's lawyer looked expensive. Mine was a friend, Jillian, who knew me back when I was the girl who could find anyone's locker combination in high school. Elise went first. Her voice was calm, clinical. She framed her lawsuit as a form of protection. My sister isolated our grandfather during his last year and inserted herself into his financial decisions. She conditioned her support of my education to gain leverage over him. She used phrases like undue influence and fiduciary breach. I watched the judge's eyebrows remain perfectly still. Her lawyer presented printouts of text messages and photos of me at Grandpa's house that made me look like I controlled his schedule. None of it was false, it just wasn't the whole truth. Then it was my turn. Jillian asked me where my money went for 7 years. I told her, to Elise. Why? Because she wanted to be a doctor, and I believed in her. Elise let out a soft snort. Mom glared at me as if I had insulted the family honor. Jillian gave me a nod, and I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a thick, ugly envelope held together with a rubber band like a brick. I took it to the court clerk. Financial records, I said. Every wire transfer with memos, every rent payment, every exam fee. The judge accepted the evidence. And one more thing, I said. I pulled out another, smaller envelope, the cream-colored paper yellowed at the edges. I found this in my grandfather's desk the week after he passed, tucked under his chessboard. It was addressed to Elise. I never opened it. I had thought about burning it. I handed it to the bailiff. Your Honor, I said, this is a letter my grandfather left for my sister. I have not read it. She should have. Elise looked confused for the first time all morning. She took the letter carefully, broke the seal, scanned the page, and froze. A deep blush spread across her face. Jillian continued as we had planned. We also submit Exhibit C, she said, sliding over a stack of screenshots. These are messages from Ms. C to her friends and our client's mother, in which she wrote that keeping the tuition loans in Danielle's name would be safer for me because I can always blame her if something happens. There was more. She also wrote, after the will was revealed, that she intended to scare me with a lawsuit so that I would give up the house. Elise's lawyer objected on grounds of foundation. Jillian calmly laid the foundation. The judge glanced at the document, then turned to Elise. Her lawyer whispered to her, "Challenge the authentication." "We'll reserve that, Your Honor," Elise said to the judge. "Noted," the judge said dryly. I was not done. "Your Honor," I said, "may I briefly read the last line from the letter my grandfather wrote to me?" I held up the page. It says, "Danielle, if anyone ever tells you it is your duty to sacrifice, tell them no." Elise rolled her eyes. He wrote things like that all the time. He liked his little sayings. The judge looked at her. "Miss C, would you care to summarize the letter you just opened?" She folded it once, then twice. "It's private." "Understood," he said. "But you have introduced it into these proceedings. This is discovery by another name." She swallowed hard. "He wrote that the house should be Danielle's because Danielle asks for nothing, and I've already been given enough." The room was so quiet I could hear the fluorescent lights hum. Mom whispered, "He did not mean it like that." The judge turned back to me. "Ms. C." I pulled out my phone. A little more context. A video. It was a 30-second clip from my grandfather's kitchen. He is sitting at the table, his watch on his wrist. He looks at the camera, then at Elise, who is off-screen. His voice is clear. "Honey, I'm proud of you. When you're a doctor, you're going to pay Danielle back every single dollar. We'll write it down if it helps you remember." Paused it. "The date of this video," I said, "was 2 years before he passed away." Elise said it was a joke. "He joked like that. We have a family sense of humor." The judge leaned back in his chair, his eyes fixed on the phone screen, then the letter, then Elise. He exhaled through his nose very slowly. Then he did something I have never seen a judge do. He looked at my sister, gave a small smile, and started to laugh. It was not a cruel laugh, but more like someone who has just heard the world's most audacious lie delivered with a completely straight face. "Counsel," he said, composing himself. Your client's position is untenable, unless she wishes to go to trial and pay everyone's legal fees for the privilege. I suggest you take the next 5 minutes to discuss a dismissal with prejudice. He added, looking directly at Elise, also Miss C. Your sister's job is to find information people try to hide. This was an unwise course of action. Elise stared at the table. Mom tried to reach for her hand but missed. Dad just looked old. The laughter stopped echoing. The gavel did not fall because there wasn't one, but something inside me did. It was the clean crack of a rope snapping under too much weight. We settled in the hallway. It was framed as my being generous. Jillian drafted a single-page agreement on a bench while a bailiff ate a muffin 3 feet away. Elise withdrew all her claims. She agreed not to contest the will. She agreed to stop contacting my clients. Yes, she tried that too, sending them concerned emails about my stability. In return, I agreed not to pursue sanctions against her for filing a frivolous lawsuit. Mom tried to spin it. It's just a family squabble. It was a misunderstanding. I looked at her. You told me what my place was to sacrifice. She flinched. I was upset. You were honest. Elise would not meet my eye. She folded Grandpa's letter so small it looked like a secret you could swallow. You humiliated me, she said quietly. You sued me, I said. That video was the only reason you could not lie to my face the way you have since you were 12. She stiffened. You think I'm some villain? I'm just tired. I worked so hard. So did I said. But only one of us sent the other the bill. We just stood there, holding the baggage claim tickets for a relationship that never arrived. Dad suggested we all go to brunch. Jillian made a face like she had smelled something foul. I said I had to get back to work. I drove to the house. It is not big. The front step sags a little. The porch light switch crackles when you flip it. I sat on the living room floor with the watch in my palm, and the house keys pressing into my thigh through my pocket. The silence felt different, not empty, just unoccupied. Waiting. That night, I moved the 7-year spreadsheet of expenses into a digital folder labeled, closed. Then I did something reckless. I ordered a pizza with every extra topping. I didn't use a coupon. I turned my phone face down. The next few weeks were quiet, like the city had thrown a blanket over me and told me to just breathe. I replaced the safe under my bed with a locked file cabinet in the hall closet and moved my case files there. I replaced the serpentine belt in my car that had been squealing for months. I took on only one new client, a woman whose ex-boyfriend had taken her dog and vanished. We found the ex 2 states away. We got the dog back. The woman cried into the dog's fur, and I didn't bill her for the last hour. People who knew my sister sent messages. Some were angry. How could you do that to her? Some were placating. She's just stressed. My favorite came from an attending physician who had supervised her on an overnight shift. She is brilliant, he wrote, but she has never had to say she is sorry. Elise tried a different tactic. She showed up on my porch with coffee and a look that said, I'm ready to be the good sister if we pretend none of this happened. I'm not suffering from amnesia, I said through the screen door. You dropped your lawsuit. That's not the same as paying a debt. Same thing. You can come in when you understand the difference. She left the coffee on the step. An hour later it was cold. I poured it down the sink. Mom sent me a text about holiday plans like a project manager sending a calendar invite. I didn't answer. Dad called and left voicemails about starting fresh. I saved one so I could hear his voice when I missed the version of him I had in my head. I started to feel the house become my own. I found Grandpa Harold's screwdriver set in a drawer next to loose change and rubber bands. I fixed the sagging front step. I changed the porch light to a motion sensor one, not because I needed it, but because a little extra security is comforting to me. An occupational hazard. One Tuesday, I opened a new savings account and named it Cabin Fund. I wrote Elise a single line. Let me know when you want to handle your half of the cabin expenses. She replied with a heart emoji and nothing else. Fine. I also called the student loan administrator. With the portion of the inheritance I had received, I paid off the loans that had been clinging to my name like barnacles. Watching the balance hit zero felt like taking off a heavy coat I had worn for so long. I forgot it wasn't part of me. My work shifted little by little. I stopped taking the cases that paid in cash but felt like poison, the ones where a landlord wanted every piece of dirt he could get on a tenant. I took on more custody cases and a few elder abuse investigations. It turns out I am good at listening to people who have been trained to believe they don't deserve to be heard. A month after the hearing, I got an email from Elise. I typed no, then deleted it and wrote, "I'm not available to be your reset button. We can talk after you send me a plan for paying back what you promised Grandpa you would." I attached the spreadsheet with columns, amounts, dates, and 0% interest because I wanted to be able to sleep at night. She did not write back. 2 weeks later, a direct deposit showed up. A $500 entry first, then $300 from her next paycheck, then nothing for a while, then $1,000 after she worked an extra shift. There was no apology, no explanation, just money with lowercase notes in the memo line like, "Sorry this was late car repair." It wasn't enough to fix everything. It was enough to prove one thing, she knew. Mom sent a group text with balloon emojis on my birthday. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to the cabin by myself. I reread Grandpa Harold's letter. It felt like a clean word. Not cruel, not mean, just honest. And here is the part one did not expect. The life that follows is louder. Food tastes better. A dumb joke from a mechanic with a grease-stained hat can make you smile all the way through the parking lot. Friends, the ones you always made excuses not to see, become anchors, not distractions. I stopped being the woman living on hold. I started answering my own calls. I thought closure would be a big speech. Instead, it was an ordinary afternoon with a small sound, the clack of the mail slot. An envelope slid onto my welcome mat with no return address. Inside was a cashier's check for $8,000 and a handwritten note from Elise. "For the spring. I will keep going." Nothing else. No hearts, no love, no apology. Just a ledger entry that admitted what she had denied in court. I stood there for a long time. Then I deposited the check into the cabin fund and made myself a grilled cheese sandwich that would make a nutritionist weep. I ate it on the front porch as the new sensor light flicked on and off every time a moth tried to own the night. People still tell me I am so strong. They mean you kept paying even when it hurt. But strength is not carrying a house full of other people's furniture on your back until your knees buckle. Strength is putting the furniture down and locking the door. Strength is saying no and not explaining yourself until your throat is raw. My mother still sends group texts. Sometimes I read them, sometimes I don't. My father called last week to say the lawn at their house needs to be mowed. I told him there is a service he can call for that. He laughed like he thought I was joking. I wasn't. We ended the call politely like neighbors. Sometimes I see Elise in the mornings after her shift, when she stumbles out of the hospital with eyes like crumpled paper. She saw me across the street once. She raised a hand. I raised mine back. It's not a truce, it's not a war. It's something else, a boundary that holds. If you were hoping for revenge, I don't have it. The judge's laugh was enough. The rest of it. The quiet house, the stakeouts that end well, the dog case that ends with a wagging tail, the closed spreadsheet, works better than any speech. Here is the moral of the story. I am not a wallet. I am not a supporting character. I am not a job description written in someone else's handwriting. I am a person, and my answer is no when the request isn't right. And here is the promise I made to myself at dusk in the cabin, with the watch steady on my wrist and the lake moving like a quiet breath. I will never again let anyone tell me that my only job is to sacrifice. That's not love. It's robbery with good manners. I am done paying to get into my own family. I have my own keys now. Comment. I know this story hits close to home for many of us. It's a powerful reminder that setting boundaries is not selfish. It is an act of self-respect. True kindness has to include kindness toward yourself first. There is a huge difference between supporting the people you love and erasing yourself for them. Healing often isn't a loud declaration, but a series of quiet choices we make every day. You are not responsible for managing everyone else's life or feelings. Your primary responsibility is to build a safe and peaceful life for yourself. Remember to honor your own contributions, and know that your peace is worth protecting. I hope you all find the strength to choose your own peace. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See See you in the upcoming stories.